community newspapers. Glad to be here in the new year. Today we have a special segment that we're going to start on a reoccurring basis leading up into the 2021 legislative session. To my right, I have Dr. Nancy Lawther. She is the legislative maven. Many of you know her from the PTA, but more importantly, she has worked on issues that relate to creating a policy at Tallahassee. So she's very well versed on the legislative process. She's here representing a new company called New Era Alliances. Disclosure, I am part of that company and look forward to building out a niche consulting company to be able to serve South Florida. But with no further ado, Nancy Lawther, take it away.
Thank you, Robert, and Happy New Year to everybody. And may this be a better year than our previous year.
Yes.
So we are all preoccupied at what's going on in Washington and what's going on in our neighboring state of Georgia, but actually what goes on in Tallahassee, as well as our local municipal city and town councils, affects our lives more oftentimes than what happens at the federal level or what happens in a neighboring state.
As they say, all politics are local.
Right.
So we know the legislative sessions for 2021 starts when?
The actual session starts on March 2nd.
Okay.
And it ends on April 30th, 60 days.
60 days.
But in advance of that, there are committee weeks, and the first committee week is going to be next week, indeed. Okay. And bills have been filed already. There are already over 230 bills that have been filed. Hold
that thought right there. Tell them what the bills are.
Okay. They range on a variety of topics, but some of the more interesting bills that would affect people in their daily lives, there is a proposal to enforce the sales tax on online purchases. And of course, lots of us in the last 9 months, 10 months have made a lot of online purchases.
Yes.
So,
you hold that one thought. So for those of you that are unaware, the legislative bills are proposals to enact law. So the bills are going to be considered. They're going to be going through committees, and they will be voted on by the members of the legislature, both in the House and the Senate. And at the end of the session, they will be voted to pass on to become laws for the governor to sign, or for them to be actually go into law. So Nancy's going to be able to provide you an update on a weekly basis of the bills that have been filed, what's important to you, what's important to me, what's important to all of us, right?
Yes. And with respect to Miami-Dade County in particular, where affordable housing has been a question for many, the price of homes, there is a bill proposal that has bipartisan support that would prevent further raids on the Housing Trust Fund up in Tallahassee.
That's the Sadowski Trust Fund?
The Sadowski Trust Fund. And it's got bipartisan support, including with support from members of the Miami-Dade delegation. Representatives Geller and Grieco are in support of that particular bill. So it would free up money for its intended purpose, which is to provide affordable housing.
And just for those of you that don't know, this is a state fund that's on annual. It's a trust fund that annually gets rated to, meaning money's taken away from the fund for the purpose of shoring up the state's budgetary shortfalls. And it has been said, and I believe that this is true because when I was in the legislature, I certainly believed in it, that by rating the trust fund takes money away from projects, development, and rental units that will provide affordable housing, very much a crisis in Miami-Dade County. What are the bills have been filed? What are the highlights of the bills that have been filed? And what should we be looking for?
All right. The most important bills have not yet been filed. Usually the numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 in the House are reserved for leadership priorities. None of those have been filed yet. However, you can start to see some of the outlines. The question of the budget is going to be primordial. So how in the world is Florida going to make up the revenue loss And the online sales tax is one attempt at that. There has been another proposal by Senator Brandis to permit betting on sports and to tax that particular income. Don't know whether that's going to fly or not, the question of the Seminole Compact, but certainly the budget is going to be primordial. And of the committees that are going to meet next week, all of the Senate appropriations subcommittees are going to meet, meaning that money is their first and foremost concern. Okay. In addition, there is likely to be further legislation on education. We'll see how that goes. The major bills have not yet been presented. And in addition, we have yet to see a bill that the governor himself has suggested, which is very controversial and which would allow bystanders who are carrying arms to be able to, of themselves, shoot at anybody who is destroying property or injuring people during a public demonstration.
So it would elevate, and this is the governor's intent. He has mentioned that he was in favor of it. It would elevate the crime of property, vandalizing property, to basically capital offense. Enforced
by the general public.
Yes.
We have yet to see what the particulars of that particular bill are going to be, but that was what was suggested, and we'll see how it comes out. There is as well a proposal, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but basically to remove any requirement to have a license to carry firearms. That proposal has been put forward by Representative Sabatini. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but there is a spirit within some in the legislature that really prefer a much more libertarian approach to the question of firearms.
Yeah. So it's going to be a very interesting session, would you not say?
I would say it's going to be quite dynamic in a very strange way, because, for example, the question of public testimony for either lobbyists or those who are advocates who choose to travel to Tallahassee. Testimony is going to be at a distance and very tightly controlled. And as a matter of fact, for the Senate committee weeks, it will be at so far a distance, it will be in a separate building.
Wow. So let me ask you, for those of you that would like more, right? I know you have an outline of all the bills that have been filed so far. How many have been filed?
Thus far, as of this morning, I believe it was 233.
So for those of you that would like an additional information or to find out more about what Nancy's doing or breakdown, where can they find out?
Okay. So there is an email address, which is New Era Alliances, plural, at gmail.com. And you can also contact me at 786-353-3070.
So, guys, Nancy is a treasure. I cannot think of a person who is more together that helped me in building out legislation when I was there. She's helped a number of legislators, but more importantly, she has been the legislative arm, one of the engines behind the Florida PTA's proposal of legislative, and not just proposal legislative acts, but also fighting the bills that would otherwise hurt public education. Nancy, would you like to come back and stay with us maybe a little bit later so that we can talk a little more in detail?
That would be great.
Outstanding.
That would be fantastic.
So guys, I want to tell you, Nancy, thank you. For those of you that want more information, you know where to get a hold of Nancy. You know how to get a hold of me. So we'll continue the conversation in the coming weeks, but certainly a little bit later on after we finish up our interviews, hopefully give them a little more taste of what's to come.
Right. Civics for grown-ups.
I love it. Thank you, guys.